Oliver never believed in Santa Claus. To him, it was just a story parents told their kids. A harmless lie to make the holidays feel magical. But the apartment building where he lived, a grim concrete tower called the Regent, had its own strange traditions, and none of them felt magical at all. The oldest tradition was the Christmas Eve disappearance. Every year, without fail, at least one family would move out. No goodbyes, no forwarding address, just an empty apartment that stayed dark forever. People joked about it, calling them the Christmas ghosts, a morbid little inside joke to cope with the unsettling pattern. But Oliver wasn't laughing. He had noticed something the others hadn't, or maybe they just chose to ignore it. It was always families with children, and it was always after someone reported hearing bells in the hallway late at night. This year, Oliver decided he wasn't going to sleep. He was going to stay awake and wait. A week ago, he'd heard the footsteps himself. They weren't the cheerful jingle of a merry gift-giver. They were heavy, slow, dragging across the floor just outside his door. It sounded like something was being pulled, something too heavy for the person pulling it to lift. He'd pressed his ear to the door, his heart hammering, but the sound had faded, leaving only a profound, unnatural silence. So, prepared. He brewed a pot of the strongest coffee he could find, turned off all the lights except for a small lamp in the corner, and sat in his armchair facing the front door, waiting. The hours crawled by. 10 o'clock. 11. Midnight. The building was quiet, unnervingly so. Then, at exactly 12:30, the hallway lights outside his apartment flickered once, twice, and then went out completely. A smell, thick and unpleasant, seeped under his door. It was the scent of damp, musty cloth and something metallic. Like old rust, his blood ran cold. The footsteps started again, right at the end of the hall this time. Drag. Scrape. Drag. Scrape. Closer and closer. Oliver's breath hitched in his throat. He sat frozen, listening as the dragging sound stopped directly outside his door. He hadn't made a sound, but it knew he was there. He could feel it. The air in his apartment thickened, growing heavy and oppressive, as if the building itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would happen next. Slowly, carefully, Oliver rose from his chair. His legs felt like lead. He crept to the door, his hand trembling as he reached for the peephole. He peered through, expecting to see an empty, dark hallway. Instead, his entire vision was filled with red. A coarse, deep red fabric was pressed so tightly against the glass he couldn't see anything else. Ep went by confused, then looked again. It was still there. As he watched it, a single, dark eye opened within the fabric. It wasn't human. It was wide, ancient, and utterly devoid of warmth. It stared directly back at him, and he felt a chilling certainty that it could see right through the door, right into his mind, into his fear. A voice, deep and impossibly calm, whispered, not from the hallway, but from inside his own head. Santa only visits homes where someone is awake enough to notice him. After that night, the visits didn't stop. Oliver started finding small gifts inside his apartment. He kept the door triple locked, the chain on, but they appeared anyway, placed neatly on his coffee table or by his bedside while he slept. They were wrapped in dull, grayish paper that smelled of damp soil and old blood. The gifts themselves were horrifying. A tiny, single sock, stiff with something dried inside. A broken toy car with what looked like teeth marks scraped into the plastic. A child's drawing, crumpled and torn, depicting a tall, thin man in a red suit with no face. Each gift came with an overwhelming sensation of being watched, a feeling of a presence just over his shoulder, even when he was completely alone. The bells started again, but now they weren't in the hallway. They were inside the walls of his apartment, a faint, maddening jingle that moved from room to room, getting closer every night. And the voice returned, whispering to him in the dark. It explained that Santa doesn't bring gifts anymore. He collects them. He collects proof that children existed at all. Forgotten children, the voice murmured, disappear faster than memories. Someone has to keep a record. Oliver began to see him. At first, it was just in reflections. A tall, gaunt figure in a stained red suit, standing far behind him in the bathroom mirror. A fleeting glimpse in the dark screen of his television. Each time, Santa was a little closer. The cheerfulness of the legend was a grotesque lie. This Santa was thin, almost skeletal. His beard was tangled and matted, his suit darkened with patches that looked like soot and something wetter, darker. One evening, Oliver spun around from the kitchen sink, certain he wasn't alone, and he wasn't. Santa was sitting on the edge of his bed, humming a broken, off-key carol. His sack, a huge, lumpy thing made of the same coarse red fabric, lay on the floor beside him. It seemed to breathe, rising and falling slowly, rhythmically. Santa looked at Oliver, his ancient eye seeming to smile. "This building is perfect," he rasped, his voice no longer a whisper in Oliver's head but a dry crackle in the room. "The adults are all so busy, so tired. The children are so quiet. No one ever stays awake long enough to see where the missing ones go." Oliver's mind screamed. He had to get out. He backed away slowly, then bolted for the door, fumbling with the locks. He threw it open and sprinted into the hallway, heading for the emergency stairwell. He didn't look back. He threw open the stairwell door and started running down, taking the concrete steps, 2 at a time. Floor 5. Floor 4. The sound of bells began to ring, not in the walls, but in the stairwell itself, echoing and growing louder with every step he took. Floor 5. Floor 4. He stopped, confused. It was Sura Ed, already past these floors. He started running again, faster this time. Floor 5. Floor 4. The stairwell was repeating, an endless, looping nightmare. The bells were deafening now, a chaotic, clanging storm of sound that vibrated through his bones. He turned to run back up, but the way was blocked. Santa was there, filling the entire space from wall to wall, his form unnaturally tall and distorted. He wasn't walking. Simply what? The big, breathing sack was slung over his shoulder. The deep voice echoed all around him, drowning out the bells. "Thank you, Oliver," it boomed. "Thank you for staying awake. It's so rare to have a witness to the truth." Days later, after numerous complaints from neighbors about a foul smell, the building superintendent unlocked apartment 6B. The police found Oliver sitting upright on his bed. His eyes were wide open, dry and dusty, as if he hadn't blinked in days. His mouth was frozen open in a silent, unending scream. Beside him on the floor sat a massive red sack, crudely stitched with dozens of children's names. It was slowly leaking a dark, thick liquid that had already stained a large patch of the carpet. And from somewhere deep within the building's walls, the faint, tinny sound of bells could be heard, echoing softly as they climbed upward, toward the next apartment, where a single light was still on. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more nightmares.